Hi guys, welcome back to another video. If you can hear that, that's Big Bang Theory. My mum was watching it. And yeah, today
If
we're
you
watching
thought my family owned a lot of
our
hamsters,
cats
wait till I
too.
tell you about all the cats we had.
My
Just a heads
my
up
brother's
though,
cat's
some of these
Nanny is
cats are
also a
dead.
junior.
They all
He's
lived
watching it with
9
me.
happy lives, none of them had a painful death. Except for one, maybe, we don't know. We'll get into that. So cats. Some people think cats are jerks and not as loyal or loving as dogs.
That is also true.
And they're right, but if you think about
Wait,
it,
what?
cats
What is that?
improve our lives loyal or loving as dogs. And they're right, but if you think
Bruh. I'm so taking that screenshot. That is
about
so
it,
cool.
cats
Funny.
improve our lives every day. Think back to YouTube in 2006. What was popular? Cat videos. If it wasn't for cats, we wouldn't have YouTube as a platform. Which I could make the argument is
Yep.
another jerk thing cats did. Now, I'm a cat lover, and anyone who says they
Same.
dislike cats has obviously never snuggled up with a cat and had it purr on your chest as you pet it for so long that you both fall asleep and all your
True.
anxieties melt away and the only thing you care about is your fragile feline friend. Or they're allergic. Honestly, I think I'm slightly allergic to cats as well. Because every time I snuggle up with one, my eyes get all watery, my nose gets all stuffy. But like, I can deal with that. Maybe this is what love feels like. People like to put everybody into two categories. Either you're a dog person or a cat person. But why do I have to pick just one? Can't I look at these two animals and say that both of them have good qualities that make them amazing pets? Why can't I pick both? I'm bisexual for animals.
What?
Wait, that being said, here's all the cats I had growing up. So our family had just moved to our new house and we're all getting ready to go to church when my older brother, who was outside for some reason instead of getting ready, heard noises coming from a bush. And when he went to investigate, he found a little baby tabby kitten. He told my parents about the cat and they said its mom was probably looking for it, but if the cat was still there when we got back from church, then we could let it inside. And after we got back, my brother checked the bush and the cat was still there. So we took her in, we fed her, and we decided to name her Shady.
Crap.
Was still there. So we took her in, we fed her, and we decided to name her Shady after Eminem's The Real Slim Shady because she was an obnoxious cat and didn't like us at all. Yeah, but she's so cute though. And that's how our family got our one and only cat. One cat is enough. There were no more cats. Until one night when I was sitting at the kitchen table and through the window of the back door, I saw two yellow eyes staring at me. And as a kid, I still thought monsters were real. So I pointed it out to my family, hey, there's eyes outside. And everyone turned and was like, what the? So we opened the back door and a piece of the night just walked into the house like it lived there or something. Does this mean we have bad luck? Apparently, just waltzing in our house uninvited is a very effective strategy to get adopted because she ended up living with us for the rest of her cat life. My older sister loved Sailor Moon, and in the show, there's this black cat named Luna. Spoiler alert, Luna's actually an alien that can turn into a human sometimes, but most of the time she's just a cat. So we named the cat after her, and little old Luna fit great in our home. We were your standard nuclear family with two cats. Just two. We never got another cat ever again. Until one day,
What's wrong, Superman? Locked out of your big ice thingy?
Okay, that's done.
got another cat ever again. Until one day, this other cat appeared in our backyard. We put Luna's and Shady's food bowls outside, which meant our backyard was basically a cat sanctuary for any cat that could jump our fence.
Yep.
And sometimes we would see this calico cat hanging out in our backyard. We didn't know if she already had a home, and she would run away from us if we got close. So we left out a third food bowl for her. And then she invited some of her siblings along because two other cats decided to chill in our backyard. And one of the cats was a boy, which meant we had to get all 5 cats neutered. And just like that, we more than doubled the amount of cats we had. We were feline pretty good. 3 more cats added to the family, 'cause why not? That's the perfect amount of cats if you ask me. I'm gonna name them now. What? We're not getting 3 more cats. 2 is enough. What? We can't just kick them out. We're gonna find them a new home, but we're not keeping them. But we're not keeping them. Okay. Also, you're not allowed to name them. What? If you name them, then you'll get attached to them, and we're not keeping them. So since our mom banned us from naming the cats, we called them the Calico Cat and the 2 other ones. And we kept calling them this until our mom found them a new home. Turns out that their new home was our home, because my mom never found them a new home. So we just left them food outside, and they were happy with that relationship. They would let you pet them sometimes and even sit on your lap, but if you tried to pick them up, they would hiss and bite you. They did not like being picked up or being inside. They were feral cats. One time it was raining, so we thought it would be a good idea to bring the Calico Cat inside, but she freaked out. She hissed and scratched us. She hated being inside more than she hated the rain. And by the way, cats can be very loud. Like as loud as dogs. They just never raise their voices. They're too proper for that. So since she didn't like being inside, we just put her back outside in the pouring rain. We ended up naming the boy cat Spot, the other cat we named Pepper, and the Calico, we didn't change her name. We named her Calico. That's like naming a dog Golden Retriever or Chihuahua. I don't know if that's sad, but you know what is sad? One day Spot just disappeared. He stopped showing up to the house, and we never saw him again. I hope he found a good home, but who knows, you know? Maybe he went off to start a second life, or a 5th or 6th life. Get it? Because they have 9 lives. Yeah, but he's probably dead. And then I was in high school when Shady died. She had a good home with us, but it was her time to go. So we were down to 3 cats, and we never got another cat ever again. But then one day, my parents were out on a walk. My mom saw a scrawny black kitten on the side of the road, and she said, "Can we keep it?" But my dad said, "No, keep walking, keep walking." And then on their way back from the walk, for some reason my dad didn't take a different route, the cat was still there, meowing at them. So my parents brought her home, and my twin sister named her Pepsi. My sister really loved Pepsi. I was more of a Coke person myself. But when my sister went off to college and I stayed home for community college, we let Pepsi outside one day, and she didn't come back. We didn't know how to tell my sister that our cat was missing, so we didn't, but we were all really worried. We put up missing posters, and after almost 2 months of being missing, she just appeared in the backyard. I don't know what happened in that 2-month period. She looked fine. Maybe she got adopted by another family, and now some poor family is missing their cat Salem. Maybe she went out looking for my sister and got lost. Maybe she started acting in some Japanese TV shows. Who knows? But we found her. We didn't even tell my sister that her cat had been missing until after we found Pepsi, so she wasn't very happy about that. Then Luna passed away. It was sad, but cats don't live forever. Sorry. Sailor Moon wasn't even a good show anyway. Now, longtime Odd Ones Out fans might know this next story. My older brother found another kitten at the gym he worked at, brought her home, and named her Azula. But the name Azula didn't stick because we found out that Azula was a dude. I was the one, by the way, who saw Azula's firebenders and told everyone. Just wanted to get that part of the story straight. So Azula's name had to change, and while this was happening, we had a French foreign exchange student living with us, and she didn't know the word for kitten, so she called him the Baby Cat. And we all started calling him the Baby Cat, and now that's his name, Baby Cat. That's how he got his name, Baby Cat. Since we're on the topic of pets, I have something that I probably should have mentioned a while ago. For the most part, I try to keep this channel goofy and lighthearted, which is probably why I waited so long to tell you this. But around Christmas of 2017, my dog Georgie passed away. You might remember her in some of my older videos. She was 13 years old, and just like the cats, it was her time to go. Yes, it was sad, but that's what happens to pets. They become your best friend, but they're not in your life forever. So if you have pets, remember to appreciate them now. I wouldn't have changed anything about Georgie's life. She was a good dog. Sorry, that part got a little personal. And my dog Poppy did not take Georgie's death very well, so my parents had to get an emotional support dog for their dog, and they got Jax, because he liked to jump, so he was their Jumping Jax. Aw, what a good name. Hello everyone, it's been a while since I posted one of these things. Between Thanksgiving and YouTube Rewind, I've been pretty busy.
I'm so lonely and horny, I may open this $20 jar of peanuts and end it all.
Autobarn is the Boxing Day sale you won't want to miss. Get 25% off store-wide for everything inside your car, under the hood, or out in the garage. Available online from Christmas Day. Most stores open 8 a.m. Boxing Day. Autobarn.
Got another one.
Jess wanted to start a business when something surprising happened.
Today I'm going to teach you how to crochet.
How was your day?
Hello? Okay. It's for you, James.
Yeah, I'm gonna change
Okay,
it.
class. Spell Wednesday. I don't know how to spell Wednesday. Well, James, just sound it out. Oh, okay. So, like this? No, James, it's Wednesday. You said sound it out, and that's how you sound it out. You think you have it bad? Do is spelled with an X. I think it comes to no surprise that I'm terrible at spelling. I feel like everyone in life falls into two categories. Either you're good at math and bad at reading, or you're weird. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that I'm a math boy. My mom told me that I have dyslexia because she has dyslexia and I have all the symptoms, but we never got that diagnosed by a doctor, so... You can't make me take my meds, Mom! A lot of times what I do to cover up the fact that I spell lower than a first grade level is I will purposely misspell words to the point where it's obviously a joke. You thought I was doing that to be funny, but it's actually because I have zero self-confidence in my spelling and I don't want anyone to point out my mistakes. I mentioned this in a different video, but in elementary school I was put into an honors program and everyone had to take spelling tests a grade ahead of their level. And by everyone, I mean everyone except me, because I failed every single spelling test. So I had to take spelling tests that were on level. Ew. Every week when we took a spelling test, I would have to move to the back of the classroom, and the teacher would stand right next to me. She'd call out everyone else's word, which had like 8 syllables, like anti-disestablishmentarianism, and then she'd turn to me and give me my on-level word. James, your word is cat. Also, one year our class did a spelling bee and everyone had to participate, and I didn't even care that I was the first one out. Hey, that's almost my name. Another thing that I mentioned in a pretty old video is that I used to have a speech impediment when I was little. I couldn't pronounce my ahs and I talked like this. I'm good now. Obviously. So every other day during school, I had to go to a speech therapy class, and one day the teacher who taught me how to pronounce my ahs, I'll call her Mrs. Kool-Aid, gave me this sheet of paper with a bunch of raindrops on it, and she said, for every raindrop on this page, say the word raindrop. But then she just left the room, and I said, well, I'm not gonna do this. I didn't say raindrop a single time, because no one was even there. No one would have seen me not saying raindrop. So why would I do something that I didn't want to do? But then the funny part is when she came back, she asked, are you finished saying your raindrops? No. Well, how many did you say? I didn't say any. You stupid child. I told her the truth for some reason. I don't know why. It was probably the easiest lie in my life to get away with, but that's why I remember this story. I'm still mad at myself for telling the truth. And I had to say raindrop a bunch of times in front of her, and she would only go to the next raindrop until I said it right. And it was terrible. Really hurt my feelings. Since I was struggling with reading and spelling, I had to get an IEP. An incredible, excellent personality, which meant I had to go to a special class for a little bit during school.
Also,
And the teacher who taught this
Christmas Eve,
class
and the
was
next
none other
day's
than
Christmas.
Mrs. Kool-Aid.
And
Oh,
today's
yeah.
It's my
I don't know why I said
birthday.
it like that. I don't remember anyone ever
For some
telling
reason,
me I
God
was
made
put
it
into a
that
special
way.
needs class. I just remember going into speech therapy every other day, and then those classes slowly morphed into teaching me how to read and spell. I don't know, I thought reading this book would have helped me talk better. 2 other kids were in the reading class with me, and I remember the day when reading for me just clicked. Us 3 were given a simple sentence to read. It was about bees. It was so simple. It was literally just, to defend their hive from wasps, bees don't sting the wasp. Instead, they all crowd around the wasp and flap their wings to raise their body temperature, heating up the wasp until it dies. And then Mrs. Kool-Aid asked us, okay, how do bees defend against wasps? And the other 2 kids said, they sting them. And I said, what? No, you moans! Didn't you read this? Ah! The words on this paper have meaning when placed in a certain order to convey information. Also, I never want to get hugged by a bee. So I was in these classes all the way until the 6th grade. I was getting better at reading. It still wasn't great, but I was getting better at it. And one day, Mrs. Kool-Aid said, you know, James, you should try competing in the Battle of the Books. Battle of the Books? Battle of the Books? Battle of the Books! Finally, reading sounds fun! At my school, Battle of the Books was this competition where students were given a list of 4 books to read within a time limit of like 2 months. I don't remember how long it was. And after however many months it was, the contestants would sit in an auditorium and take turns answering questions about the books. And whoever got the most questions right would get a pizza party. And that's where the battle part comes in. We'd kill each other for pizza. And then there were 2 more rounds, each with 4 more books, so there was a total of 12 books you had to read. And we were allowed to be with a partner, so my partner was TJ. Hey, TJ, do you remember Battle of the Books? Yeah, man, it was great. Now, you're probably thinking that 4 books in 2 months isn't that hard, especially since they're kids' books. But as someone who didn't read any books on my own outside of school, it was a challenge. But I discovered a way to cheat the system. I discovered something called audiobooks. Instead of having to sit still and read the book, I could just have someone read the book to me. And I would get through the book so much faster. I'd be able to read a book in about 8 hours as opposed to reading a book never, because I would never be able to finish a book on my own. And I was actually able to understand what was going on. I legitimately thought that listening to audiobooks was cheating because of how well it worked. So I never told anyone my secret until just now. Please don't tell anyone. Also, I didn't just turn on an audiobook and start playing video games. No, I sat in my bed next to the CD player and followed along with the book, and sometimes I even took notes. I've wanted to talk about my love for audiobooks for so long, but I can't, because then people will think I'm getting paid by a certain company, but I'm not, and I'll prove it. Instead of wasting your money on quality audiobooks made by professionals, you guys should all check out LibriVox.org, where you can listen to free public domain audiobooks, which means there's only old-timey classical books on it, like Aesop's Fables, which in my opinion is all you need. Anyway, TJ and I did the Battle of the Books, and for one of the rounds, TJ was sick, so I had to answer the questions all by myself, and I never forgave him for that. And also the whole time I was keeping track of everyone's points, and me and TJ got the most questions right. My math skills are finally being useful. I was already craving the pizza. After the last round, the teacher said, "Okay, I'll tally up all the points and let you all know who the winner is in a couple of weeks." But since I was keeping track of everyone's score, I already knew we won. I turned to TJ and I said, "TJ, guess what? We already..." Oh, this is the round that you were sick on. How did I not notice that until just now? But then a couple of weeks go by and I'm not hearing any news about a pizza party. I was expecting to walk into class one day and there would just be a pile of pizza boxes waiting for me, but that never happened. The teacher in charge of the competition was the librarian, so one day I went up to her and I asked, "So, did you ever say who won the Battle of the Books? Also, my favorite pizza is barbecue chicken." And she said, "Oh, these 2 5th graders won." So the Battle of the Books was for both 5th and 6th graders. I was a 6th grader, so I went to all the 6th grader battles, but apparently there was some low-life 5th grader who got every single question right and stole my pizza party. And that taught me a valuable lesson. Even when you work hard, you don't always get what you want in life. But that's okay, because one day you'll be an adult and you can buy all the pizza you want without having to read first.
Hello there. Any of you down for a game of soccer? I mean football? This is 100% James. This isn't someone else doing the end card. This is me. This is James. I would never ask someone else to make an end card for me because I was too lazy. You guys should check out the channel.
I'm only gonna watch these videos until...
You know, I never really understood trigger words until I got roommates. I hated my roommates. Except for you, Isaac. He watches my videos. Oh, James, you didn't hate your roommates. You just mildly disliked them. Yes, I did. When I first moved out of my house and went to college, the day I moved into my apartment and I opened the front door, this is what I saw. Keep in mind all the buildup that has gone into this moment. First, I had to get accepted into the school, then pick my major and classes. Then I had to find an apartment close to the school and get everything set up there. Then I had to pack everything up into a suitcase, kiss my dogs goodbye, and then be all on my own for the very first time. I opened the door to where I'd be living for the next 8 months, and this is what I see. Someone sleeping on a couch. He was wearing some bright fast food employee uniform. The TV is on. There's a Halo 5 poster hanging on the wall. The sink, counter, and table is full of dirty dishes. There's a big industrial-sized trash can that is overflowing. Inside the fridge, there is an empty box of Dr. Pepper, a bottle of ketchup, and a jumbo Costco-sized pack of hot dogs. Where did all these dishes come from? Fun fact, those hot dogs were still in the fridge when I left. But the worst thing that was there was about 1 million basketball cards just lying on the floor. I'm not even exaggerating, here's proof. Okay, so I got a single room because I brought all my drawing stuff, and I would feel bad if I shared a room with someone and he had to deal with all my drawing stuff being there, and also I wanted to be alone. Looking back, I'm so glad I got a single room because that room couldn't even fit myself. Literally, I could stand in the middle of the room, hold my hands out, and without moving my feet, I could touch the walls of the room. Maybe I just have long arms, I don't know. I mean, I could settle for a small bedroom, but what made living there so horrible were the roommates. What I didn't realize is that these boys also got private rooms, so that means that they too were socially awkward and kept to themselves, which you might think is a good thing, but you'd be wrong. On the first night of being by myself, I unpack all my drawing stuff and I set it all up, then I turn on the computer and the screen is just black. Nothing was turning on. I tried everything to fix it and it just wasn't turning on. Eventually I contacted the people who made it, sent it in, and then I got it back working, but during that week while the tablet was being fixed, like seriously, no joke, that was probably the worst week of my entire life. I'm being serious. Making comics and YouTube videos was what kept me sane. And that first night of being on my own and my tablet broke, I cried, guys. I couldn't even eat food. I was that sad. I hit rock bottom. I remember just watching Captain Sparkles and Game Grumps highlights all day. But then the day I got it back, I was a drawing machine. I posted a comic the very same day. So let's spend the rest of this video talking about these previously mentioned roommates I had. The first person I need to talk about is Isaac. He was the only one that I like, and he's also the only one I told that I made YouTube videos. Now this boy wore Obey hats, he vaped, and he said stuff like, "That's dope." But you wanna know why I liked him the most? Because he did the dishes. Like, me and him did the dishes. It wasn't just him, okay? I'd probably never become friends with him in any other circumstance. Just wanted to say that he was the cool one. I like him. Hi, Isaac. I miss you. I was looking at this post on the internet, and it was where the old memes are today. And for the after picture for the Scumbag Steve meme, it looked exactly like my roommate, who I'll just make up a fake name for, Steve for convenience. I'm pretty sure I was roommates with a meme. Just put a fedora on this meme, and boom, that's my roommate, Steve. And it was a very fitting meme, too. This guy wouldn't do the dishes, he always cooked this ramen thing in the microwave, and would leave this gross juice stuff behind. So then when I would go to use the microwave, it would get my paper plate soggy, so I would have to check every time before I used it to make sure there was no juice stuff behind. And also at night, he watched anime without headphones, subbed. Anime has a certain sound to it, I don't know if you knew that. It's like normal Japanese, but really emphatically. Luckily, it was usually late at night when he started watching, so I would just have to get to sleep before he started and I would be all good. James, why didn't you just ask him to turn it down? I did! One night I went into his room and I said, "Hey man, can you turn it down?" And you know what? He did turn it down for that night. That night. That one night. The very next night, but you know, he wasn't too bad. He would spend most of his time in his room playing video games, and I would spend most of my time in my room drawing. So except for the microwave juice thing, we didn't get in each other's way too often. Here's actually a funny story. So when I was filming the part in the vegan video when I crumpled up Oreos over Reese's Puffs, Steve walked into the kitchen and he saw me filming this sugary vegan concoction, and I just said to him, "Don't ask." Okay, so here's the roommate that I hated the most. His fake name will be Hunter. He was the one asleep on the couch when I first walked in, and he was the one who had collected all those billions of basketball cards. Just basketball cards. And he kept them all in the front room. What's the point of having sports cards when you can't even play with them? I mean, I spend money on Magic the Gathering cards, but that's because it's an actual game that you can play with friends. What do you do with sports cards? I mean, I guess you can leave them in the front room of your apartment. Maybe one day your roommate might make a video about it, though. He left his Mountain Dew bottles on the floor, he farted in public, he'd always complain that Steve didn't do the dishes, but he wouldn't do the dishes either. One time I was tired of doing everyone's dirty dishes, so I bought a big stack of paper plates for everyone to use, but Hunter took the paper plates to a party without even asking me, and he didn't even bring them back. But the worst thing this guy did, one day he told me, "My ex-girlfriend doesn't want our dog anymore, so he's coming to live here." What? So this boy wants to bring a dog in an already very small, cramped apartment. I couldn't believe this. The dog's name was Snoopy, and I loved him. Hunter would put him in his kennel at night, but one night I was like, "Hey, Hunter, Snoopy can stay with me if you want." And then boom, from that day forth, I was the one taking care of Snoopy. Snoopy would now sleep in my room, I would be the one who took him out for walks, and I fed him slices of lunch meat. What was great was that when I would go into the kitchen and Hunter would be watching TV, he would call for Snoopy, "Snoopy, Snoops, Snoops." But he wouldn't come. This dog would follow me everywhere. And then one day Hunter said, "Hey, do you just want to have Snoopy? I was going to get rid of him." And then I said I would take him. And then later that same week, Hunter moved out. He took all the toilet paper too. He basically gave me a dog. And of course I loved that dog. But we lived in such a small space and I was always busy with school and drawing. I knew these weren't the best conditions for a dog to live in. And I'm pretty sure my apartment didn't even allow pets. So I asked people I knew if they wanted Snoopy. And my grandma got one of her friends to take care of him. So I dropped Snoopy off and I've never seen him since. And that's it, the end. There was another roommate who I didn't even mention. He always worked a lot, so I didn't really see him too much. He had an electrical toothbrush, and I think since I was already mad at my roommates, when I would be trying to go to sleep and he would start brushing his teeth.
No, we're watching this.
Jess, are you floating because Felix Mobile offers 1 month free to new customers?
Yep, and I'll never run out of data again.
Ooh, that's peachy.
Don't forget the code.
Oh, hello, my geeks and peeps, my explainers and entertainers, my little oodle-lollies. Rebecca Parham here. So,
Also,
did you
might
know I
make,
was a daycare kid? Probably not, because I've never mentioned it before. Makes sense, given that mom and
A
dad were both
series
working parents,
for
and
the
leaving
day
one's
of
infant at home
your
alone is
life.
generally considered problematic.
Of me,
Now, I know it
like
might be hard to believe, but I haven't always been the
a
pinnacle
day
of refinement and
in the
maturity
life
that
of
you see
me.
before you today. No. As a kid, I was a bit of a rascal. For example, the box story. Now, at this daycare, we had a big
But,
playroom,
yeah, I'm
and in
probably
this
gonna
playroom, there
need,
was a
like,
dark
a
little
real
alcove
camera.
where custodial stuff and equipment was kept all the time. And one morning during playtime, I noticed someone had left a large box there, big enough for a child to hide behind. Now, there's a concept that I call kid logic, and it's basically just a name for that randomness that kids possess, or the
Yes,
absurdity
I
that
have
is
a
their
lot of
reasoning
that even
sometimes.
on me.
For example, when I saw that box, that's when my kid logic kicked in, and I said, I'm gonna hide behind that box for as long as possible and see what happens. This is a great idea. So when the adults weren't looking, I slunk
Wait.
behind the box and said, I'm gonna hide behind that box for as long as possible and see what happens. This is a great idea. So when the adults weren't
His eyes.
looking, I slunk behind the box and crouched down, hiding myself entirely. I must have stayed there for half an hour before playtime ended, and they ushered all the kids away to a different room for a new activity. And funny enough, the adults were none the wiser I was gone. I've beat the system. Now this is what gets me. It took an hour of me hiding before an adult came back to the room and visibly began looking around for something. Couldn't imagine what it might be. Now where did I leave that small child? Must be around here someplace. I peeked my head up over the edge of the box to watch, but that proved to be my undoing. I was spotted. I've been compromised. I got in big trouble for that, of course. I was clearly not good at getting away with things when I was a kid, as you'll see in the next story. Now, one time at this daycare, they brought in a whiteboard, and you were only allowed to draw on it with adult supervision. Okay, I won't draw on the board. Instead, I stole a green dry erase marker when no one was looking and proceeded to decorate my face. Hey, listen, I didn't break the rules. They specifically said don't draw on the board.
Yeah.
They said nothing about my face. I put the marker back and walked away, but was promptly spotted by an adult. Becca, did you do this to yourself? No. Did somebody do this to you? Yes. Who did it? Well, sheesh, I hadn't thought I had that far. And I honestly didn't even think to blame another kid. Instead, that good old kid logic kicked in, and I came up with the most foolproof story that was sure to get my hide out of trouble. I was minding my own business, looking for something to play with, and then the markers came over and marked on my face. Nailed it. I will never understand how that daycare worker kept a straight face. But off to timeout I went. So, what are you in for? Disrupting the status quo? Whoa, I stuck gum up my nose. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that my sister...
Hold on, what did he
But I
say?
went. So, what are you in for? Disrupting the status quo? Whoa, I stuck gum up my nose. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that my sister Rachel also went to this daycare, and because she's 2 years older than me, she got to be in the big kids program called the Superstars, and I was so jealous that I took to calling them the Stupid Stars. Extra crispy on that burn there, little Becca. But one thing that will always be a significant memory to me is the day I discovered that the Superstars had a Nintendo. Better yet, they had Super Mario Brothers. And that, my little oodle-ollies, was the first time I ever saw a console video game. I thought I was looking at magic. And that became the only thing I ever wanted to do at playtime, was go over to the big kid area and watch them play Super Mario Brothers. Don't you dare tell me that gamers aren't real entertainers. I was watching people play video games long before the Appliers and Septiceyes and D-Pies of the world made it a thing. But when playtime was over, the daycare staff had to pry me away, kicking and screaming from that TV set. One day, however, I came up with a brilliant idea. When they pulled me away from the big kids' corner and sat me down with the other little kids, I proceeded to scream and cry that I miss my big sister, and nothing was gonna console me except being allowed to be with her in the big kid area. I guess the adults didn't know what else to do, so they actually let me go back over. Holy Crayola, that actually worked. Sure enough, I made a beeline for the Nintendo. Screw you, sis, I got video games to observe. It didn't take long for an adult to catch on, and I was eventually pulled away again. When I tried the same shtick, they gently said, Becca, you say you miss your sister, but every time you go over there, you just watch them play video games. Okay, maybe they had me there. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty solid accusation.
All right, grown-up, I'll concede to you this time. But one day, I'll be grown-up, and I'll watch all the video games I want.
Don't you mean play them? No. Now, I've saved the best story for last. Even when I started kindergarten, there was no escaping this daycare, because one of the services they provided was picking up children from my elementary school and taking them back to the daycare where the parents could pick them up later. So every day, I didn't get picked up by a parent or get on a normal yellow school bus. I waited for a big white van. That sounds rather nefarious now that I say it out loud. But yeah, Rachel and I would wait for the van, pile in with the other kids, and go wait to get picked up at the daycare. And this was a routine my kindergarten teacher knew. She was a very good teacher and kept track of the way each of her students were supposed to go home. So she would make sure I got in that van. Well, I was getting a little bored of the routine. And here's good old kid logic again, because many of my classmates would get to walk home. And for some reason, I decided that was the cool thing to do. I aspired to walk home. But that wasn't gonna happen with Miss Responsibility Pants botching my whole operation. So like the little devil I was, I waited until we had a substitute teacher. All right, here's your evil genius learner's permit, kiddo. When school ended that day, instead of getting into the daycare van, I hid behind a brick pillar and waited for the van to leave without me. Funny how my sister never said anything. She must have been like, all right, I guess she died. As soon as the van left, I headed off on foot. My house was within walking distance, only about a mile away. But I began to think as I walked that no one was actually going to be at the house, and I had no way of getting inside. Probably should have thought of that before. So instead of walking home, I made the executive decision to walk to the daycare instead. Now, I knew what I was doing was against the rules, because every single time I saw a white vehicle of any sort coming in the distance, I would duck behind a tree or bush as fast as I could. When I was so close that I could see the daycare up ahead, I noticed what was most definitely a white van approaching. And the only tree immediately available was thinner than me. So not only was this tree already insufficient at hiding me, but when I jumped behind it, I put the tree between me and the line of sight of the van. So when the daycare staff approached, this is what they saw. I'm revoking that evil genius learner's permit. They stopped the van, made me get inside, and guess who I found in the back seat? The snitch that ratted me out. My own sister.
How could you? We were brothers, you and I.
Wait. And that is just a handful of examples of what a little monster I was. I talked to my sister about this script, and she came up with even more stories about this daycare, so if you guys like this video, then maybe there'll be another one in the future. Who knows? Alright, have fun out there, oodle-ollies, and avoid white vans. Thank you so much for tuning in, but now I gotta tune out.
Sometimes we see some pretty scary stuff when we're watching TV, looking online, or even playing games. It's not your fault if you see something scary. We all feel scared sometimes. If you see something scary, tell an adult you trust and talk about it. Take a break from screens and go do something else that makes you feel happy. And if it's still on your mind, Kids Helpline is here for you. Anytime, any reason. Call 1-800-55-1800.
Ah, the backyard. The personal wonderland of suburban kids everywhere. A place of curiosity and imagination. A minefield of anthills and lost Hot Wheels. A peaceful refuge where the greatest childhood memories are made.
Girls! She did it! Hello, my geeks and peeps, my explainers and entertainers, my little oodle ollies. Rebecca Parham here. Backyards are great. They have grass and trees and fences. To a kid, they could be the plains of Africa, the jungles of Papua New Guinea, the great wilderness of Alaska, or the perfect place for a treehouse. Can I just go on record to say that I freaking love treehouses? I mean, look at these. They're mystical and woodsy and full of character. And away from people. Look at this one. I want to live there. I want to hook it up with Wi-Fi and a sauna. I want all the local kids to call me the Witch of the Woods and tell stories about how I'll steal your toes if you get too close to my house. I want to be a ghost story. Wait, we're off topic. Backyards. A staple of suburban living. I lived in suburbia as a kid with all the trimmings. Neighborhood kids to play with, nearby woods to explore, a school I could walk to and from. And you can't forget your standard issue bully that lives up the street. My bully kid was named Jocko. Now, Jocko wasn't your run-of-the-mill bully kid. You know, the big thundering monsters that you stay away from at all costs, like a Canker Sister or a Flats the Flounder. No. Jocko was more like Buford from Phineas and Ferb. Still a bully, but one that got involved in the adventures, and you invited over for a game of baseball sometimes. He was a weird one for sure. One time we were over at his house in his backyard, and he needed to, release the hounds. But instead of going inside and doing his business like a normal person, he popped a squat right there in the grass and made fertilizer. And then his dog ate it. He also once found a lighter in our backyard and decided that he wanted to make a campfire. And my sister and I were just like, yeah, sure, sounds fun. At some point during our tomfoolery of gathering things to incinerate in our campfire, Jocko wanted to act all tough, so he pointed the lighter at me and my sister and lit it. Just so happens, at that moment, my mom looked up from doing the dishes and saw that through the kitchen window, and she ran out screaming at us. Unsurprisingly, Jocko had to go home. Glad she caught us, too, because we weren't even messing around at that point. We were gonna light a freaking fire. Give the hellfire and brimstone preacher something to talk about, if you know what I mean. Lord, save us from the unholy demons known as the Parham children. Thank you, Jesus. Actually, my dad did call me a firebug sometimes when I was a kid because I tended to like fire, and still kinda do. Hey, it's warm and pretty and gets rid of evidence. Everything you want in a boyfriend. But the big story that I remember about Jocko was the tree incident. One day, my sister and I were playing baseball with Jocko in our backyard when one of us hit the ball over the fence into the neighbor's yard. Our neighbor wasn't home and their backyard gate was locked, so Jocko came up with a bright idea. He began climbing our giant oak tree so he could swing over to the neighbor's tree, climb down, and retrieve the ball. And Rachel and I just stood there watching him climb, periodically going, "You're gonna fall! We're gonna have to call the fire department to get you down!" Which I think only strengthened his resolve to make his brilliant plan work because he just kept climbing. Now strap in for this one, explainers, it gets good. When he got close to the neighbor's tree and was about 15 feet off the ground, he grabbed a pencil-thin branch in his hands and actually tried to swing to the neighbor's tree like he was freaking Tarzan. Apparently, Jocko has never seen a Wile E. Coyote cartoon because then he would have known better. Who says cartoons rot your brain? Guess what? The branch snapped. Ah! Mom! Jocko had not only fallen, no, he had crashed through the neighbor's wet bar, which my sources tell me is a bar or counter equipped with running water and a sink for serving alcoholic beverages in a home environment. And Jocko had completely obliterated this thing. It was like a dinosaur had stepped on it, just